All right, hey guys, we're going to do today, we're going to discuss the first attempt at a new government. So, our essential questions are: name two things that are weak or missing from the AOC, which is the Articles of Confederation. Did the Articles of Confederation provide citizens with an effective government? Why or why not? Okay, this lesson should be somewhat familiar to you from civics, so that's a good thing. All right, so the first attempt, so we have fought the Revolutionary War, and now we're starting over. So we have to figure out what would work best. And this is very much trial and error. So some things are going to go well, and some things are not going to go well, and we learn from those mistakes. So it says, even while war waged on, the Second Continental Congress saw the colonies needed to be united under a central government. That means one leader, one set of lawmakers making the decisions, basically a federal government. They decided, thank goodness, that this government would be a republic, much like the Greeks had. So a republic, citizens rule through elected representatives. Okay, so citizens rule through elected representatives, the people rule. And it says in 1777, they adopted the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union, which was a plan for a loose union of states to be ruled by Congress. Now, the republic part, citizens rule through elected representatives. When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. You're saying, I pledge myself to where citizens rule through elected representatives. So by saying the pledge, we're saying we believe that the people should rule by electing their representatives or removing their representatives if they don't like how their representatives are voting. The people should rule. So if we're not saying the pledge, we're saying in a sense, we don't want the people to rule. We don't want people to have a voice or a vote. So this republic is very important. Now, back to the Articles of Confederation. So AOC is what we call it, loose union of states to be ruled by Congress. They wanted a very weak central government. Why would they want that? States hold most of the power, not federal government. Why would they want that? Remember, they've just come out from under a monarch, the king. They do not want a new, large, could be oppressive government on them. So they want a very weak federal government, and they want to give all the power that's there to the states so the people themselves can be in charge. Again, remember, they've been burnt by the king very recently, so they're afraid of having a large federal government. They want no executive branch. That means no president, no leader. That goes back to the king. They're afraid this person would become a king, a monarch, a dictator. They want no judicial branch. So no judges either. Again, they don't want them to become too powerful. They want everything to be in the hands of the states, but they do allow a Congress, which is based on the English Parliament, to make the laws. And then the people would elect those representatives. Remember, no taxation without representation. So they're making sure they have representation in the Congress, just no president, no judicial branch. Now, what you're going to see here, where it says loose association of states, I want to show you this. This is just a little chain, paper chain I made. And basically what it's showing you here is, with this Articles of Confederation, loose association meant they're friends for a while, so we're all friendly, hanging out together. But then if we don't like something, this section can just leave the other section, okay, and be its own guy. So, we can separate from the chain. That's what I'm saying. That's what Articles of Confederation thought, that a state could literally just pull out if they wanted to and be their own country. Okay, you can see already that there's going to be some problems. Okay, so it says what they do have the power to do. They do have the power to declare war and have an army. And in order to have an army or declare war, you have to have an army.
So I brought little army men for you to see. Okay, so we're going to have an army. All right, here's another one. We're going to have our army, and we're going to be able to declare war with the army under Argos Federation. Remember, they're probably going to have learned this lesson after having to raise up the Continental Army to fight the British. And they can sign treaties with other countries. What they cannot do, major problem, is collect taxes. There's a tax sheet. They cannot collect taxes. Why would they not want any taxes collected? Primarily because the king had so oppressed them with taxes. Now, I have some pictures to show you. Here is a copy of the title page of Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union between the states. Remember, union between the states. So I said one can just pull out and separate if he wants to do that. So that's Articles of Confederation. They're going to have trade problems. It says they could not regulate trade between states. So I wanted to show you this cartoon. No control over trade between the states. So one state, here's another state, there's the border, and they're not able, see it says toll right here. So one state's charging another one to bring things in, and you see Uncle Sam, in this sense, scratching his head, the U.S. government saying, what are we going to do? Because we can't have states taxing each other, it shuts down the trade. They will just stop trading with each other. The articles start to look like a sinking ship. You'll see that more and more as I teach this, because they cannot collect taxes. It says no power to raise an army, although they do have one, but they can't, they're not going to have a navy or anything like that yet. No national court system, no power to evoke treaties. Okay, so they're going to have a lot of problems here. They can sign the treaties, but they can't really enforce them, and they cannot regulate trade, and they cannot collect taxes. This is the biggest problem. And here's another cartoon of that, which I think is a neat cartoon, showing Uncle Sam with his hat out, like put money in the hat for taxes, and every state is saying no. Okay, so they're not going to collect. If they don't collect taxes at all, the government has no money, and the government cannot function on zero. It just doesn't work that way. So you'll see there's lots of problems. All right, so debate about how it should work. Should representation in Congress be based on population or be equal? So they debated. We are going to have our Congress, our legislature. Should that be based on the number of people per state? So therefore, the bigger your state in population, the more representatives you would get. They chose no, to go with equal representation, one vote per state. Now remember that, one. What levels of power would there be, and who would hold the power? Remember, national is not going to have a lot of power for them. So they did have two levels, national and state, but the state would have most of the power. And I said the reason why is because they're afraid of a big, oppressive national government over them. So they want the states to be in charge, all right? So that's that. Okay, also land policies. How would they pay off any war debt to France, for instance, who came and helped us in the Revolutionary War, and we owe them money? How would we pay that off? We're not collecting taxes, so what are we going to do to pay that off? And it says we decided to sell land west of the Appalachian Mountains. We need to know how much land there is in order to divide it up and sell it into tracts. So they're going to set up the Land Ordinance of 1785, which surveyed the land into townships, what we would call maybe like counties. Okay, so this is how the county system or township system formed in these new territories. This is a cool picture to show you. So I said new territories. So you notice all in here, this is the new part, the Northwest Territory. So Ohio, remember, these are not part of the original 13 colonies. Indiana, Illinois, we know now, Michigan, Wisconsin. So they would take a region like this area, and then they would survey it and put it into blocks, which would be townships. It says each township contained 36 sections. Each section was 1 square mile. All right, and so you could divide those into smaller lots, but then you had surveyed the land to sell it. And this is going to lead to the next thing, which is Now that we're selling this land and people are moving there, we need to allow them to become states, new states. So it says, Northwest Ordinance of 1787, how new territories will become states. You have to just memorize this, okay? Let me see if I have a picture. Yes. So this is the area that I'm talking about again, the new Northwest Territory. We haven't got to any of this yet, or Spanish Florida. Okay, so this area is the new territory we're talking about. These areas are already states. Look at North Carolina, how it extends. We'll change that, of course, soon. But we're talking about this area, the territories. So how are we going to make that area state? So what they said was Congress would choose a governor. So Congress will choose a governor. Once you have 5,000 people living there, you write a constitution for that state. So the state can write its own constitution, but that's just little c constitution for the state, 5,000 people. When you get 60,000 living there, you can apply for statehood. So then you are a state when you got 60,000. I'm going to talk about this throughout the semester because we're going to be adding states. So make sure you know, first they had to choose a governor. Second, when you get 5,000 people, you can write a little constitution for your state, rules for your state. 60,000 people, you become a state. You apply to the U.S. government for statehood, and you become a state. So make sure you know this is how we're going to add those new territories in as states. Keep in mind, though, we're just going to have major problems with the fact that we cannot tax, I'll go back to that, cannot collect taxes. So we end up having to sell land in the new territory to have some money to pay off our debt. That was the land ordinance. And we cannot regulate trade between states. And I said we also cannot regulate treaties. We can sign them, but we can't really enforce them. We can declare a war, we can raise up an army, but no navy or anything else yet. And the signing of the treaty, you can sign it, but can't enforce it. So we put a lot of restrictions on ourselves, which causes a lot of problems down the road. Okay, however, the good news is that they formed a republic, and that's very important to us today, that we, the people, rule. All right, so the questions were, name 2 things that were weak or missing. Weak or missing. So definitely there are no taxes collected, and that's a problem because the government now has no money. Because of that, they end up selling land. And they cannot regulate trade between states, so states start fighting amongst themselves. And they cannot enforce treaties, although they can sign them. Okay, so those things are weak or missing. All right, did the AOC provide citizens with effective government? Why or why not? I think they do set the groundwork in a good way for the republic, but no, it's a weak central government. States have all the power, so the states are going to be fighting, amongst themselves instead of looking up to this one government. They have no leader, no leadership, no executive branch, no justices, no one in any court system. So this is a problem. This is a problem. I don't think you can ever run a country with absolutely no leader and no taxes being collected. You have no money and no leadership, which is a major, major problem. Okay? All right. So please go back, fill those in if you didn't while I was talking, and make sure you also write your summary.